The phone calls came every day, then multiple times a day. First, they were polite, inquiring. Then they became impatient, firm. Finally, they turned demanding, accusatory. They came from the top floors of the William S. Merrill Company, one of America's oldest and most powerful drug manufacturers. They called her superiors. They visited her small, unassuming government office. And the question was always the same. Dr. Kelsey, when will you sign the papers? All she had to do was sign one form, a single signature on an application, New Drug Application 61340. And with it, a medical revolution would sweep the United States. A new drug, hailed as a miracle sedative, a wonder drug, would finally reach millions of Americans desperate for a safe cure for sleepless nights, for anxiety, for the crippling nausea of morning sickness. But Dr. Frances Oldham Kelsey would not sign. She was just 1 month into her new job at the Food and Drug Administration. This was her very first major assignment. And to the titans of the pharmaceutical industry, to even some of her own colleagues, she was becoming more than just a problem. She was an obstructionist, a bureaucratic nitpicker, a single woman standing in the way of progress. The year is 1960. The FDA is a relatively small, underfunded, and often overlooked federal agency. It's housed not in some gleaming modern complex, but in a repurposed temporary building left over from World War II. The job of a medical officer there isn't glamorous. It's a job of paperwork, of reviewing data, checking boxes, and processing the endless stream of new products from a booming post-war pharmaceutical industry. And into this world walks Dr. Frances Kelsey. She isn't a Washington insider. She wasn't born into power. She was from the other side of the continent, Cobble Hill on Vancouver Island in Canada, a place of quiet landscapes, not corridors of power. But from a young age, she possessed a quiet, ferocious intellect and a deep-seated curiosity about the fundamental nature of things. This curiosity led her to the University of Chicago, where she earned not only a PhD in pharmacology, but also a medical degree, all while raising 2 daughters. Her work there, under the legendary pharmacologist E.M.K. Geiling, was formative. One of their first projects was investigating deaths caused by a new wonder sulfa drug. They discovered the solvent used in the medicine, diethylene glycol, a chemical cousin to antifreeze, was a deadly poison. The tragedy led to the 1938 Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, the very law Kelsey would later wield. The lesson was seared into her mind. What is meant to heal can also kill, and the difference is in the details, the unexamined details. So when Kelsey, her husband, and fellow pharmacologist Fremont Ellis Kelsey and their 2 daughters moved to Washington, D.C., she took a job that most ambitious scientists would have considered a step down, a desk job at the FDA. Her new boss, Dr. J. Keith Blevins, gave her what he thought was a simple file to get her started, to let her learn the ropes. The application was for a drug named Kevidon. It seemed perfect, a home run. The active ingredient was a compound called thalidomide, and it was already a massive success story. In West Germany, it was sold over the counter as Contergan, in the UK and Canada as Distaval. All across the Western world, it was being celebrated. Doctors prescribed it freely. Unlike other sedatives, it seemed impossible to overdose on. It didn't cause a groggy hangover, and most remarkably, it was touted as completely safe for pregnant women suffering from morning sickness. The application from the American licensee, Richardson Merrill, was thick with testimonials, with sales data from Europe, with glowing anecdotal reports. They wanted it fast-tracked. By law, The FDA had just 60 days to either approve it or state why it was being delayed. For the company, it was a formality, a rubber stamp. For Franceskelsey, it was work. She opened the file, and a small, quiet alarm bell went off in the back of her methodical mind. It wasn't one big thing, it was a dozen small ones, a death by 1,000 paper cuts. She read the clinical trial data submitted by the company. It felt thin, incomplete. Most of the evidence was just testimonials from doctors who had given it to patients and reported back that they felt better. It was marketing, not science. Where were the controlled studies? Where was the raw data on absorption and excretion? How did the body actually break this chemical down? The animal studies were even worse. They showed the drug worked, but they didn't show it was safe. Not in the way Kelsey understood safety. She picked up her pen. Instead of a signature of approval, she sent a letter back to Richardson Merrill. The application was incomplete. She needed more data, much more data. The 60-day clock was paused. On the other end of that letter, the executives at Richardson Merrill were likely confused, then annoyed. It was probably a clerical error. The new doctor didn't understand. They sent back a response, full of assurances, but little of the hard science she had requested. Kelsey read their reply. The alarm bell in her mind grew a little louder. She wrote back again. Application still incomplete. And so it began. Not with a bang, but with a letter. A quiet, professional act of defiance. A refusal to be rushed. Franceskelsey, the new hire on her first big assignment, had just picked a fight with a corporate giant. She had no idea the battle she had just entered, or what was truly at stake. The pressure started as a trickle, then became a flood. Months crawled by. Each time Richardson Merrill sent a new packet of information, Kelsey would review it with her small team of a chemist and a pharmacologist, and each time they found it wanting. The company talked about the drug's incredible safety record in Europe, but they couldn't provide the underlying scientific studies to prove why it was safe. It was as if they were saying, "Trust us, everyone else does." But Franceskelsey did not trade in trust. She traded in facts. The company executives changed tactics. They stopped just writing letters and started making visits. Well-dressed, important men from Cincinnati would arrive at her cramped government office. They were condescending. They were patronizing. They called her a fussy bureaucrat, a nitpicker. One executive later complained she was unreasonable. Why? Because she kept asking for scientific proof. They told her, over and over again, how much money the company was losing every single day Kevadon was kept off the American market. They told her about the suffering patients, the pregnant women, who were being denied this miraculous cure because of her stubbornness. They made it personal. Imagine the isolation. You are new to an organization. You are handed what everyone believes is a simple task. And now, you are the sole reason a multi-million-dollar product launch has ground to a halt. Your phone rings constantly. Men whose salaries are 10 times yours are flying across the country to stand over your desk and tell you that you are wrong. Doubts would have crept into anyone's mind. Was she just being difficult? Was she ruining her nascent career at the FDA before it had even begun? Was she denying real relief to real people? But her methodical, scientific mind, the one forged back in Chicago, held fast to a single principle. Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Just because you haven't proven something is dangerous doesn't mean it's safe. Then, a flicker of validation. A single paragraph in an unexpected place. It was a letter to the editor, published in the British Medical Journal. The letter wasn't about birth defects. It was from a doctor who noted a strange pattern in some of his patients who were long-term users of thalidomide. They were developing a painful condition called peripheral neuritis, nerve damage in their hands and feet. It was a small report, easily missed. But for Kelsey, it was a thunderclap. The company had sworn the drug was completely non-toxic, that it had no side effects. But here was proof, a documented biological consequence of taking the drug. The corporate narrative was a lie. If they were wrong about this, what else could they be wrong about? She immediately wrote to Richardson Merrill. Again, citing the British letter, she demanded comprehensive data on every reported side effect, no matter how minor. The company was cornered. This wasn't just Kelsey's opinion anymore. This was published data. They couldn't ignore it. The standoff deepened. She now had a concrete, undeniable reason to keep Kevidon off the market. The application was now more than a year old. The pressure on Kelsey and her boss, who courageously defended her, was immense. The company had begun to distribute more than 2.5 million investigational thalidomide tablets to over 1,200 American doctors, a common practice at the time to build market anticipation. The drug was already seeping into the country. And it was then, in the cold winter of 1961, that the whispers from Europe turned into a global scream. It came from Germany. Dr. Wittekind Lenz, a pediatrician, began to notice something terrifying: an explosion in his country of a rare and horrific birth defect. Newborns were appearing with grotesquely malformed limbs. Some had tiny, flipper-like hands sprouting directly from their shoulders. Some had no legs, their feet attached near their hips. The condition was called phocomelia, from the Greek for seal limbs. It was so rare that most doctors never saw a single case in their entire career. Now it was appearing everywhere. Lenz, frantically searching for a cause, a common thread, found one: the mothers. One after another, he discovered they had all taken the same innocent, over-the-counter sleeping pill early in their pregnancies: Contergan, thalidomide. Almost simultaneously, a continent away in Australia, an obstetrician named William McBride made the same ghastly connection. He delivered babies with the same malformations, and he too traced it back to a drug he himself had been prescribing to pregnant women for morning sickness: Distaval, thalidomide. The news broke, first in a German newspaper, then like a shockwave across the world. The wonder drug wasn't just a sedative. It was a potent teratogen, an agent that causes catastrophic malformations in a developing embryo. It didn't just cause nerve damage, it caused a nightmare. The harmless pill that soothed a mother's nausea was at a critical window in fetal development, stopping the growth of her child's limbs, its eyes, its ears, its internal organs. An estimated 10,000 children were born in 46 countries with these devastating defects. Thousands more miscarriages and stillbirths were never even counted. It was, and remains, one of the single greatest medical disasters ever caused by man. And in the United States, the number of victims was 17. 17, not 10,000. Not 5,000, 17 known cases, a direct result of the investigational pills the company had already distributed. A tragedy, but not a generational catastrophe. Because back in that temporary building in Washington, in that small office, Frances Kelsey had held the line. The daily calls from Richardson Morel stopped. The accusatory letters, the condescending visits, they all ceased. In November of 1961, the company quietly withdrew its application for Cevidon. There was no fanfare, no dramatic showdown, just a silent, terrified retreat. The war was over. Kelsey had won. The vindication must have been overwhelming, but it was surely dwarfed by the horror. The quiet, professional suspicion she had harbored for over a year had been confirmed in the most terrible way imaginable. The catastrophe she had instinctively feared was real. It was playing out in real time all over the world. She hadn't just been a meticulous regulator doing her job. She had been a sentinel. She had stood her ground, enduring pressure and ridicule, and in doing so, had saved a generation of American children from a fate that the rest of the world now had to witness and live with forever. At first, the story was barely a footnote in the United States. The company withdrew its application, and the federal bureaucracy moved on. Franceskelsey was just another civil servant who had done her job correctly. She had returned to her other files, to the daily grind of protecting the public from the unseen dangers in their medicine cabinets. Then, a reporter for the Washington Post, a man named Morton Mintz, got a tip. He started digging into the thalidomide story and uncovered the role of this quiet, stubborn FDA doctor. On July 15, 1962, the front page of the Post carried his story with the headline, "Heroine of FDA keeps bad drug off market." The story exploded. Suddenly, Franceskelsey was no longer an anonymous bureaucrat. She was a national hero. The public, horrified by the images of thalidomide babies from Europe, now had a name and a face for the person who had saved them. They learned of the corporate pressure, the condescension, the year-long battle she had fought in private. The political fallout was immediate and transformative. The thalidomide scandal exposed just how weak the FDA's authority truly was. It galvanized a push for reform that had been stalled in Congress for years. In October 1962, Congress passed the Caffover-Harris Drug Amendments, a landmark piece of legislation that forever changed how medicine is regulated in America. Before Franceskelsey, companies only had to prove their drugs were generally safe. After her fight, the law was radically strengthened. For the first time, companies would have to provide substantial, scientific proof that a drug was not only safe, but also effective for its intended use before it could ever be marketed. The modern American system of rigorous, multi-phase clinical trials was born directly from the ashes of this crisis. It gave the FDA the teeth it had so desperately needed. On August 7, 1962, President John F. Kennedy held a ceremony in the Oval Office. He stood beside Dr. Franceskelsey and awarded her the President's Award for Distinguished Federal Civilian Service, the highest honor a government employee can receive. Kennedy spoke of her high ability and steadfast confidence in her professional decision. But it was more than that. Her story represented, in his words, the public's protection against a shocking tragedy, and highlighted the need for a stronger, more empowered federal agency. Franceskelsey could have taken the fame and moved on to a more lucrative job in the private sector. She did not. She continued working at the FDA. For nearly 4 more decades, she dedicated her life to public service, shaping and overseeing the very drug evaluation processes she had helped create. She retired in 2005 at the age of 90. Her legacy isn't just one drug she stopped. It is in every prescription you've ever filled. Every medicine that has been rigorously tested for safety and effectiveness owes a debt to her quiet, unyielding integrity. She created a shield forged not in a lab, but in a small office, through courage, meticulousness, and the simple, profound power of saying no. We often imagine that history is shaped by grand pronouncements and epic battles, but sometimes it is altered by a single person in a quiet room simply refusing to approve a piece of paperwork. Franceskelsey's story is a chilling reminder that the line between a miracle and a disaster is often invisible. And it is protected not by sweeping laws alone, but by the integrity of those individuals who are tasked with enforcing them, the ones who are willing to stand their ground and demand the truth, no matter how much pressure is brought to bear. This file is now closed, but the archives are vast. To be the first to know when the next dossier is opened, subscribe to Federal Confidential and turn on notifications. In the comments below, let us know which secret story needs to be told next.